stop hitting down on the golf ball. It's absolutely wrecking your golf swing. Instead, I'm going to help you imagine a revolutionary new way to look at swinging a golf club, one that's going to help you hit it with more compression, more pure, more solid, longer distance, better golf shots. So the problem with the idea of hitting down on the ball is that for about 90% of golfers, it simply doesn't work. Watch. I mean, I hit really down on that ball. I took a big divot and I hit the ball about 50 yards in the air, kind of topped it. I don't even know what that shot was, but it was one of the ugliest shots that I've ever seen. And yet, according to most YouTube coaches, I did everything right. Now, to help you better understand the concept I'm going to introduce to you and the images I'm going to introduce to you in just a minute, let's define a couple technical terms and let's try to make them as simple as possible to understand so you know how to get these pure, consistent, compressed strikes every single time. First of all, you've got what's called the dynamic loft. Now, let me show you what that is. Simply, it's whatever the loft is showing as you strike the ball. Really simple. So, you can see that if I put the handle back here, I've got a lot of loft showing to the ball, like a pitching wedge worth. If I lean the handle forward this much, like a foot, I've got much less dynamic loft. In other words, the club is nearly straight up and down like a 3-iron right now. So I'm showing at the ball, when I strike it, if I were to strike it like this, much less dynamic loft. The same could be said to be true with an open face. Even though the handle's leaning forward correctly, the open face means more dynamic loft. It's open. Closed, you're taking away dynamic loft. You're reducing the dynamic loft. This is why closed face pulls and hooks go a club further, and why open face slices and pushes go a club less. Now, a lot of people that I coach, they make impact with the club handle only level with the leading edge. And so this has a certain amount of dynamic loft. Meanwhile, if you have the club leaning forward 3 or 4 inches like this, it reduces the dynamic loft, and that can be a very good thing. Next, we have the idea of the low point. And I've talked about in other videos how I would like to see you develop a low point that is consistent with every club in the bag to be just inside your left instep on this line on the screen. This 7-iron, you'll notice, the handle of the club is on that line because I've set up about 3 or 3.5 inches with forward lean, and the club is just a little bit forward of center in my stance. But ideally, you would like to achieve the same low point with every club in the bag, striking or sweeping the grass just right off the left instep, like I'm doing right now. And then lastly, you have the angle of attack. The angle of attack is how much upwards or level or downwards that you might be striking the ball. So look at this pendulum in club for a second. If I put the ball back here in this natural pendulum, I would hit down on the ball fairly steeply. Of course, if I put it near the low point, it's going to hit pretty level, pretty sweeping. And of course, if I put it or somehow figure out how to hit it this way, I'm hitting up on the ball, and therefore I would have a positive angle of attack. So angle of attack can either be downwards into the ball, descending, which you may have heard of, or level, or it could be upwards, like I would encourage you to do on a driver. So now with those 3 variables in mind, the dynamic loft, the angle of attack, and the control of the low point, now we can start talking about compressing a golf ball. Using these 2 sticks, a yellow and an orange, I'm going to show you now how to compress a golf ball the best way possible. The yellow stick is going to represent the dynamic loft on that 7-iron that we had a minute ago. So there's the loft that's showing at the moment of impact, just like that, pointing up like that. And we're going to make the orange stick the ground for a second. So you can see, if you were to come in sweeping at it, what the dynamic loft would be. Now, most people, most pros on TV, they have a downwards angle of attack on a 7-iron of about 4 degrees. Now look, can this see how both sticks pitch down together? Therefore, someone who's hitting down on the ball more and more is going to launch the ball lower. So watch, if I really hit severely down on the ball, I can hit, that stinger or that punch shot into the wind. But notice that the size of the pie, or the difference between the two sticks, remains roughly the same. We can start defining this with a new variable. The difference between the dynamic loft, the yellow stick, and the orange stick, which is going to be our angle of attack, this is going to be something called spin loft. So spin loft is simply the difference between the two. It's spin loft that helps you compress the golf ball. More spin loft, you compress it less. Less spin loft, you compress the ball more. This has nothing to do with angle of attack directly. It has nothing to do with striking the dirt and compressing your club into the ground. This is what most people want you to believe. If you just get in there and you take that super deep divot, well, maybe all they're telling you to do is steepen your angle of attack. This does not change the slice of the pizza here between the two sticks. Notice they've just moved down together, so your trajectory comes out lower and everybody on YouTube goes, ooh, ah, but you haven't compressed the ball anymore. You may have compressed the earth more. This shows us that if you want to get more compression, yes, it would be helpful to reduce the dynamic loft. The yellow stick, remember that dynamic loft is the loft showing to the ball at the moment of the strike. Now, sure, if I were to have the handle of the club way forward like this, I'm reducing the dynamic loft. But what I've got to do, if I want to compress it more now, I can't have them both go down together. In other words, I can't just hit down to compress the ball more. That's not the way it works directly. Instead, imagine how I would shrink this pie. I could leave the dynamic loft alone and I could actually shift the angle of attack upwards. And now that the pie is smaller, it means I have more spin loft. More spin loft equals more compression, equals more smash factor, equals more distance. Very interesting, because this orange stick is now upwards. Now, not advocating that you try to hit upwards on your irons, that you actually hit upwards on your irons, but we're going to get to that image in a second. But it just shows you that if I have forward lean on the club at the moment of impact, but I hit upwards on the ball, this is going to make me compress the ball the most, actually. Something like that. So if we put this all together, in order to compress the ball like the pros on TV, we need the low point to be in front. That's a given, 3 to 4 inches or so on a 7-iron. It's a given that we want the shaft to be more forward leaning at the moment of the strike. However, we do not want this to go together with the idea of hitting down, because we know that a steep angle of attack is just going to negate everything you've done with the other two ideas. And furthermore, for the average golfer out there, the idea of hitting down into the ground simply makes them pull their arms more and slam the club into the ground to try to make sure that they hit down. So it is a terrible image for most golfers out there. Now, the average guy on the PGA Tour hits downwards on a 7-iron right around 4 degrees. That's not very much. It's pretty sweepy, isn't it? And they bottom out about 3.5 to 4 inches in front of the ball with their low point. So at the moment of the strike, they're looking right about like this, and then the next few inches would look like this as they scrape the divot and sweep the divot the next 6 or 7 inches or so. But what if we replaced the idea of hitting down with the idea of more hitting up, still bottoming out in front, still with forward lean, but now with the image that we're going to hit up and around to the left? That would look something like this from your perspective. And I'm going to show you how to get there in a second. But look, if I could imagine the club coming upwards and around to the left and swooshing somewhere in this area. So if I was going to put a piñata over here, and I was going to, or a balloon or something, and I'm going to try to swing around upwards and leftwards. So I'm going to heave upwards and leftwards and try to put the brunt of the swoosh or the snapping action of the club head and try to put it somewhere ahead of the ball by 30, 40, even 50 inches over here, I think you're going to have a much better time of things. Now, how are we going to get to that image that I just showed you? The image that we're going to swoosh out in front, upwards, and around to the left. We're going to replace the idea of hitting down with hitting up to the left and swooshing in front. We're going to do this. I'm going to have this stick represent my shoulder level. Watch as I shift my left hip outside my heel and keep going until my belt buckle is on top of the heel. So much that my left shoe is now starting to roll outwards. The weight is in my heel and I'm on the outside of the left foot. Furthermore, I'm going to turn the stick so that my right shoulder starts to come into the ball and my shoulders feel open. So now I'm tilted and I'm rotated around open, starting to move towards the target, like this. Now in this position, which you can easily practice, again, shift the left hip laterally outside the foot until you could be in complete balance. Even with the tilted stick, you can be in balance on the left leg and then start to open up, just like this. Now, once you're in this position, it becomes very, very easy to imagine, to produce the swoosh, shift over and turn and swoosh over here. Heave, turn, and swoosh upwards and to the left. Now what's amazing is we're going to have forward lean because the swoosh is out in front. You're automatically going to get the forward lean that you're after. You're also going to get the low point correctly in front of the ball, again, because you're shifting, turning, and swooshing out in front of the ball. However, we've done something magical here with our angles of our shoulders and hips, and that is by getting a tilt and causing the left shoulder to rise up as we both shift over and straighten the left knee. The spine is at a tilt, my left side gets tall, my left shoulder skyrockets up as I come into the ball. What does this do that helps us with our compression? It helps the handle of the club now goes up at the very last minute. It's going around to the left with your turn of your body, and now it goes upwards just before impact, which causes the angle of attack to get shallower. So you can almost feel like you're hitting up on the ball, and yet you won't be hitting up on the ball. The angle of attack will be downwards slightly, but very shallow. You'll have your forward lean, therefore you've reduced the amount of spin loft. Remember, that's the difference between the two sticks. If I can have forward lean but just sweep through impact fairly shallow, kind of a sweeping divot, this is how you're going to get the most compression and the most pure feeling of all. So let's take a look at one. Again, I'm going to feel like I'm swooshing up and around to the left, out in front of the ball. You can easily do this with an alignment stick. This is a great place to start, actually. Imagine the swoosh being on the way up, around to the left, and out in front. And you can easily hear where that swoosh is. If you can make a swoosh out here first, okay, then you might switch back to your club and do a couple practice swings with that. Same idea. Swoosh out in front. Upwards and to the left. Hit a golf ball. Doesn't have to be a big hit. And you can absolutely compress the crap out of the ball with this new image. Not of hitting down, which turns into a gouge for a lot of people and does not give them the image that they need to move their body correctly. This image creates an automatic, correct movement of your body, creates impact positions that are much more favorable. I'll have forward lean, forward strike, but the handle going upwards is going to cause the club to shallow out and do more sweeping than digging. Oh, that felt good. Okay, we covered a lot in this video. We covered, that's, got to remember, smash factor. You've heard that before. High smash factor is good. Compression is good. Forward lean on the club. This is good. Forward low point in front of the ball is very good. For those of you out there, what we've covered is how to compress the ball may take you a completely different set of images. What you're doing here is you're feeling like you're hitting up, but yet reducing the dynamic loft by having a forward leaning club. Now in reality, you're actually still hitting down, but you have closed the gap between the yellow and the orange stick, and the closer they get together, the more you compress the ball, the more pure it's going to feel, and the further it's going to go. And this is the feeling that will keep you coming back every day. This is why Hogan hit the ball from sun up to sundown, because he hit every ball with such maximum compression. You'll know it when you feel it because it goes right into your heart. So try my set of images, replace the idea of hitting down with the idea of hitting upwards, ahead, and around to the left. And I think you're going to hit some amazing, beautifully compressed shots coming up soon. Hey, thanks so much for watching all the way to the end. If you got value out of this video, please hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and leave a comment down below because that actually helps the video too. Everybody knows that YouTube is not going to be the final solution to your golf swing. So if you need any extra help, please email me at this address. I do both live in-person coaching and online coaching, personalized to you. And I'm sure that I can help you drop your handicap and hit it longer and straighter. For everybody else, if I don't see you in the next video, I hope I see you longer and straighter and more compressed down the middle. Everybody take good care.